Folks, welcome back. It's Tuesday again, Creative Financing with JB. Got a special guest, but it's Veterans Day. Veterans Day just passed. We're going to start talking about something about our veterans. That's important. Thank you for your service, all those veterans that serve. But we want to really be tuning in to what's happening with veterans, why it's so important, why we kind of honor that right there. And my special guest here works for the Department of Veteran Affairs, and she's going to give a little breakdown of some things. And we're going to have some open conversations, so y'all feel free to open up about it. I'm going to let Miss Rita Chappelle introduce herself, and then we're going to start with a little questions and let the guests come on in. Welcome, Rita.
Well, thank you, Johnny B. JB, thank you for having me on tonight. My name is Yes, I'm Rita Chappelle. I'm Chief of External and Congressional Affairs, Outreach and Media for the Department of Veterans Affairs, Veterans Health Administration, Philadelphia VA Healthcare System, the best in the nation. We're the best.
All right. And that's wonderful. We just I like to think about our veterans, especially during this time. Veterans Day just passed. Some folks they probably ask a question. Oh man, veterans, them people just served. They out now. Leave them alone. Let them learn about that. They know how to get their own benefits. They know how to do all of that. But I learned something that coming out the military as I'm a veteran, that it's important to know about some benefits. It took me a lot of years to go to the VA hospital, and I didn't know why. I'm like, I don't need that. I thought that was for senior citizens, people to that magnitude. And just tell me, the Department of Veterans Affairs, tell me, what do they really deal with, so our audience kind of know?
Well, first of all, Johnny, thank you for your service. We appreciate that you were willing to take that pledge and give up your life for those of us who stayed back at home. So thank you, and thank all the veterans. We celebrated you all. We celebrate the veterans all year long at the Philadelphia VA, but in the month of November, that's Veterans Month. So, what typically happens is, one of the things that when you become a member of the military, you take that pledge, you're under the Department of Defense. So when you get ready to transition out, then you become a veteran, and then you come to us, the VA. So the VA is there to help you for your psychosocial, medical needs, your housing needs with home loan guarantees, education needs, help you to transition with vocational rehab if you need to be retrained for a job. The VA is probably the number one employer of veterans. We choose to hire veterans first. We also help you with not only your health care and your financial benefits and your disability compensation if you were injured, during the course of your service. We also help with the final transition, which is the National Cemetery Administration, where veterans can be buried or if they're cremated, be put into a mausoleum. We provide the grave site, the headstone, the flag to the family, and taps being played when you have your service at our cemetery. Now, if the family, of course, then chooses to go somewhere else, then the VA will contribute up to a certain amount.
You're mute. I think you're muted. You're on mute.
So, with the Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act, the PACT Act, which President Biden signed into law in 2022, it provides for both health care and financial compensation to veterans who might have been exposed to a toxic substance, depleted uranium, any sort of flying debris, if they were around burn pits, if they were exposed to Agent Orange. So initially, when it came out, it only applied to Vietnam veterans, um, Gulf War veterans of all the Gulf Wars, and post 9/11. Earlier this year, the VA opened it up to cover all veterans, regardless of what period of conflict they served in, regardless of whether they were deployed or if they were, I don't know what's happening here. I'm
We
losing
can hear
myself,
you.
whether
You're
they were
fine.
deployed
Hmm.
or if they were um, exposed to toxic substances during basic training, or
Hmm.
if they were assigned somewhere to clean up a toxic site, and while there, they were exposed to a toxic substance. Now, this is different from the benefits for those who were in Camp Lejeune, the Marines. That's a separate tract of payment and compensation for veterans who were exposed to the toxic water there on the base. So this provides for free health care. So what has happened is when the PACT Act went into law, the VA researchers that work for the VA looked at the veterans that were coming back, especially during the Gulf War and post 9/11, and they were presenting with certain medical conditions, brain
Hmm.
cancers, heart disease,
Hmm.
diabetes, gastrointestinal diseases, the women with reproductive diseases, thyroid cancers, you name it. So they started to draw a nexus between where they served, when they served, what they were exposed to. And by putting together all those elements, they were able to determine if you were in certain places in the world where you were exposed to certain chemicals, you may possibly come up with certain diseases. And so they published a publication called The Presumptive
Hmm.
Conditions. And it's right now, it's over about 40 different medical conditions that veterans could contract. Hopefully, you do not. But if you do, the VA is there to provide both medical care and financial compensation. So that when we talk about the
Hmm.
disability rating in terms of financial compensation, depending on the conditions that you present with, the severity, you would be rated by one of our claims examiners at our sister agency, the Veterans Benefits Administration, for compensation, financial compensation benefits. Now, some veterans may say, who previously may have been rated at 100%, they might say, I'm already 100%. I don't need this. I don't need to also file a claim under the PACT Act. Not true. Not true at all. So you can't get
Wow.
more than 100%. However, the VA also has something called special monthly compensations. And those are payments over and above the 100% for, say, for instance, a veteran who may have lost a limb while serving. So part of the treatment may be they may have a numbing cream that they apply to the
Mm.
lost limb area. And that cream may stain their clothing. The prosthetic may wear down the clothing so that the fabric becomes worn. So, the compensation, which is especially monthly compensation, clothing allowance for that, could range from 1,500 up to 3,000 a month, depending on the severity and how
That's just
many
pretty
limbs have
cool.
been impacted.
Wow.
And so the other thing that recently came out was that, another study that was done showed that African American veterans after World War II, 17 million were denied benefits, even though
Wow.
they served with their white counterparts, may have come back with the same sort of injuries, PTSD, and other physical ailments. A lot of them got turned away, and 17 million of them. So that then, of course, impacts their ability to establish generational wealth. Because if they couldn't go to college to get that degree, to maybe pursue higher education and get a high paying job, If they were denied education payments, education payments, then that then affects their family's ability to progress. If they weren't able to get a home loan, we all know that owning a home provides financial stability and generational wealth as well. So the VA now has, recognized that there was fault done to African American veterans, and our claims process is much faster. I know a lot of times veterans say that the slogan at the VA is deny, deny, deny until you die. Well, that has all turned around, and they're processing claims at a much faster rate. So it's important that you reach out to the VA and apply. So, one of the tricks that I always tell my veterans is that if you think you were exposed to one of these toxins, whether you were in Vietnam or if you were a Coast Guard member who went out to clean up the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and that happened in the 2000s, call this number 1 800 827 1000. I'll say it again, it's that important. 1 800 827 1000. And by calling that number, when the person picks up on the other line from the VA, you would tell them you want to file an intent to file a claim for benefits under the PACT Act if you were exposed to toxins. And what that does is it becomes a bookmark or a place mark for you. So then at that point, you get entered into the VA system. And then they say, we're going to send you out an application. We're going to give you 12 months to get all your documentation back into us, including filling out an application. And if, say, for instance, 7 months later, they determine that you are eligible, you do have a service-connected injury, they would retroactively pay you back to that date that you made that initial phone call, to that 1-800-827-1000. A lot of veterans, incorrectly will wait, and wait and wait and say, let me get my documents together, then I'm going to call, then I'm going to file. You're leaving money on the table, money that is owed to you. The other important thing about signing up for the PACT Act, if you were exposed to toxic substances, is that if you pass, your family members, unlike the GI Bill, can access your benefits, the home loan, the education loan. So that's another reason to sign up, for PACT Act benefits as well. So I encourage our veterans to make sure that they call that number. If you serve somewhere and you have certain conditions that are related to, the areas that you served in, you may have a buddy who, got a disability rating and you never applied, but you all served in the same area. You may have, stomach cancer, or you may have a brain tumor, or you may have high blood pressure, diabetes. Those things have been connected to certain areas of service. Don't wait, call and start the process. Johnny?
Yeah, that's so important because, Rita, just thinking back,
I can't hear you. Are you muted?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think I should be up. You probably can hear me now. Are you frozen?
I don't know what happened.
But I'm just going to speak on. So I know getting out the military. I was one of those guys that didn't know what to do, when to do it, or what happened when you got injured. You heard people getting benefits and stuff like that, but didn't know what has happened for now. But it's so important to follow that, follow through and call that number, that 800-827-1000, as she's saying, and that's what's going on there. But folks, if you have veterans out here, anybody that's a veteran, anybody that is struggling with applying for benefits or anything, reach out. We have a number there, that 1-800 827-1000 that we need to call and discuss those things. It's so many things that happen to our veterans out here, and it's based on things that happened prior while they were in the military, things that happened while they were going through war and they got injured, and we all try to be that tough guy. We had that opportunity. We might got hurt. We like, ah, man, we okay. But we 20 years down the line now, and we're facing some illnesses and injuries as we have. An important note here is that we said 17 million folks, African American, or were denied benefits here. That is amazing number. That is huge for what we're talking about here. We have to make sure that we get checked out. We go and find out what's happening. It took me a while to go to the VA to find out about my benefits. And when I went there, I found out a whole lot. I learned a whole lot to help me with my benefits. So, we served our country. We provided a service. And now our country's coming back and say, hey, we want to take care of you at that point in time and compensate you for what has happened through here for it. And we have veteran homes that we look for. We have financing, and a lot of folks probably don't know that, but if you're a disabled vet and you're applying for a home loan, your VA funding fee will be waived on that loan. You don't have to pay for that VA funding fee. So you have to take into consideration that, the benefits for education, college, and stuff help with that. And it goes forward. I know we have a little technical difficulties there with the volume and everything, but it comes back and everything. But this is real interesting. This is Veterans Month. This is an opportunity to find out what veterans that you might know that probably struggling with some of these illnesses and some of these issues that we are talking about. We think of the wars that folks done went through, and they haven't been serviced for it. We talk about veterans that suffer with PSTD, or I might have said that wrong, for those issues, but we have to follow up with those folks and tell them to go get the care they need. Go to your local VA hospital, administrative center, and find out how can you get those benefits that you need so you can heal after this war, after the service that you have provided here. And it's never too late. It's always an opportunity for someone to get what they need so they don't have to go around with these illnesses time after time. As I say, United States Navy, we walk through those ships and stairs and knee damage, foot damage. You probably bumped your head on the door railings. We was in, if you was overseas in the wars and stuff, hey, Rita, you're back for it and stuff. That might have
I don't know. Can you hear me? Because I'm not.
I can hear you now.
Can hear me?
I can hear you now and stuff.
Okay. Well, let's see. I talked a little bit about the PACT Act, and that is open now. It's starting in August of 2022. We're still experiencing a growth. They've paid out over 1 million claims.
Oh, wow.
And the claims are in the millions of dollars to veterans. Those claims, of course, if a veteran is paid for a compensable service-connected injury that's not subject to alimony or child support. It's tax free. And the percentages go anywhere from 0 to 100%. So, how can you get 0%? Well, say for instance, someone has high blood pressure, right? But the VA is treating it with medication, um, and the medication is working. But if there comes a time where the medication isn't working and the high blood pressure is not controlled, then you get a percent rating. Say you worked in the Air Force near the airplanes and you breathed in those jet fumes and heard the roar of the airplanes. So you may have ringing in your ears. So that's what's called um, tinnitus, and that is an automatic 10% disability claim from the Department of Veterans Affairs. So depending on the severity of the injury, as I said, it goes up to 100%. And you can get what we call special monthly compensation benefits on top of that. I had a veteran who had been a Vietnam veteran, and before the PACT Act came out, so he's in his late 70s. He had not pancreatic, he had gallbladder cancer and kidney cancer, and he had some surgeries, to remove that. At that time, he had not gotten any compensation for that. And all of his medical conditions were linked back to the exposure of Agent Orange when he was on the ground in the Army. Then I have a Navy veteran from that same time period. And he said, well, I was on a ship, so I don't qualify. I wasn't on the ground with the other veterans who were, on the ground in Vietnam. However, if that ship was off the shore of Vietnam, when they were spraying those chemicals for Agent Orange, the wind would carry the chemicals in the air, and sailors that were on the ships, breathed it in, and then they developed medical conditions. And the only way that it was identifiable, if they didn't have a history of it, was due to the exposure from the Agent Orange that was airborne. We've also had veterans. My nephew, he stirred the burn pits, so he has severe respiratory illnesses. So, he then was eligible. Then you have some veterans that cleaned up the toxic site at Willow Grove. So that was an area too where they were exposed to chemicals. This also includes airborne fragments, depleted uranium. They also are eligible, for compensation and healthcare, free healthcare from the VA. The other thing that the VA has is something called the Million Veteran Program. And why is this important, and why do I encourage veterans to do that? The Million Veteran Program has allowed the VA to have the largest database of DNA in the world, and it's not used to report, anyone in for any crimes or anything, but it's used by our researchers to help them understand that, medicines don't work the same in every population. Medications may, say for instance, lisinopril, which is a high blood pressure medicine. It's not a very good medicine for people of African descent. It works well with the Caucasian population, but they found that that in African Americans and people of African descent, lisinopril can cause anaphylactic shock and swelling of the face. So this database allows them to sort of do personalized medical treatments to, be able to better target medications and therapeutic treatments based on gender, race, ethnicity. For our women veterans, we also provide reproductive care now. And through our Women's Veterans Health Clinic, they can get mammographies, PAP tests, screenings for cancer, because a lot of women veterans that served and were exposed to chemicals have come up with reproductive problems where they can't carry a child, they can't have a child. They develop cervical cancer, uterine cancer, breast cancer. Earlier this year, the VA added male breast cancer as a cancer that veterans could suffer that were exposed to toxic chemicals. They also added urethral cancer and paraurethral gland cancer. So it's important that you keep up with your health. Now, some veterans, they come out and they may get tri-state care, which is um, a health care provider that they pay for. Well, it's okay to have that, but here's the
Hmm.
deal: you need to enroll in VA healthcare, because what we found out
Hmm.
is that there may come a time when you leave your employment, you can no longer afford to pay those monthly copayments for your healthcare, or your conditions are directly, service connected. So if those conditions are connected to your time in service, the VA needs to take care of you. They need to absorb
Hmm.
those costs of providing you the medical care that you need. If you're using TRICARE, then you will have copays. You will have to pay for certain things. But at the VA, if these conditions are directly related to your service, the VA will care for you. Veterans that are 100% service connected get free dental care at the VA, and
Hmm.
glasses. You can get a hearing aid whether you're 100% or not if you have at least 30%. The other thing that I found, I had one veteran. He was 98 years old. He came
Wow.
back from World War II. He went to work for Merck Pharmaceuticals. They had an excellent health care package. 100%. Took care of everything for him. But when he left Merck, when he was too old to work, and then later in life, he needed home care. So the VA has something called the Caregiver Support Program. So if a family member is taking care of you to help you with your average daily living needs, like bathing, eating, dressing, that sort of thing, getting to your medical appointments, the VA can pay that caregiver a monthly stipend for taking care of you. And then at some point in time, if you are at least, I think it's 70% or greater, could
Hmm.
be eligible to, if you need that, to come to one of our nursing homes. We call them our community living centers. If we don't have the space, the VA can also, pay for your care in the community if you're at a certain level of compensable disability rating. So, in addition to that, we also hire the military spouses, be it male or female.
Mm.
We have a program where we train. We have weekly job announcements, and you get a preference. You get a veteran's preference when you apply for the job on USA Jobs, or if you're a military
Mhm.
spouse, you get preferences to be able to get employment with the VA. As I said, the VA is like the largest employer. Some other things that are available. Our biggest mission is suicide prevention. Suicide prevention is something that the VA strives very hard to prevent in our veterans. We not only pass out gun locks, but our crisis line is 988, then press one.
Mhm.
So it's a very simple number, 988, then press one. And you press that number, you're connected immediately to one of our counselors that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're homeless, they can help you with a home, get connected with the VA to our homeless programs division, and where we can help find you housing. You may temporarily be housed, and then we work to getting you permanently housed. Last year in Philadelphia, we housed over 520 some veterans, and everyone that wanted housing, that was living on the street, we've gotten them in permanent housing. So we've almost, theoretically eliminated homelessness in the Philadelphia area, except for veterans who just did not want to come in from
Wow.
off the street. As I said, we do job training, which is called Voc Rehab. We also help veterans prepare their resumes and do mock interviews and help them with clothing. We have a food pantry for veterans that are food insecure. If they're food insecure, twice a month in Philadelphia, they can come
Mm.
in, fresh fruits, vegetables, and food right there at the hospital, because we don't want our veterans to be hungry. They've served this
Wow.
nation. They deserve everything, every resource that we can pour out into them. And then we have fun activities, to do as well. We connect our veterans with programs where they can go fly fishing or horseback riding, or, also be able to um, uh, we also are connected and work with the Honor Flight program, in that we make referrals. And so what they do is veterans who've never visited any of the national monuments in Washington, D.C., through the Honor Flight program,
Mhm.
they fly them for free. down to DC, and then in a bus
Oh, wow.
caravan, usually led by a police escort, take them to all of the monuments, the World War I, World War II, Vietnam veterans, Korean veterans. They take them all around the city and then bring them back. And fly them back home, all for free. So that's not through the VA, but we have the connections to, send you over to that program to be able to, be a part of the honor flight. I hear it's a great program. We also pair veterans with service animals, those that are in need. We have a low vision and a blind vision program for veterans where we provide them with all the technology that they need to be able to be actively engaged every day with teletypes and machines that talk to them to
Mhm.
help them if they want to cook, with recipes and things. So we do a lot. We do have a prosthetics division. We provide medical devices from wheelchairs to scooters to help our veterans get around if they need that assistance. So there's just a plethora of programs available, for veterans. They just have to come in. They just need to
Right.
come to the VA and
Rita,
get started on that path where we can assist them.
Rita, and somebody asked a question.
Audio
They're
is
like,
still
"Is Rita a
problematic.
real?"
Can you type it in,
They
Johnny?
said,
I can answer a question in the chat. I'm still having that audio issue for some reason. And I think I
"All
saw a
right,
couple questions too.
yeah." And I just
I'm not a
type one
realtor
in
or
there
a lender. Johnny
to
B is, but
explain
not
your job
me.
function.
But I know Johnny has probably done a number of VA loans. I am not in that lane. I
Mhm.
stay out of the money lane as much as possible. I'm just here really to be able to let people know what the VA can offer and provide to veterans. And this is truly, Johnny did this especially for me since we're in the Veterans Month and we just finished Veterans Day and the Veterans Day Parade, because I want to be able to reach as many veterans or their family members and loved ones as possible to make them aware of what's available to them. So what I do at the
Yeah.
VA, I manage the reputation. I know that the VA, all VAs sometimes have had a bad reputation with our veterans, and it's not just in Philly; it's across the nation. I hear the horror stories now. I
Mhm.
have had relatives that were turned away from the VA, and some of them I got to come back. And I had a cousin who came back from the Gulf War. He was a sniper. He came home. He didn't want anything else to do with the military, didn't want anything else to do with the VA. And he just, buried himself in his mother's basement and would only come out at night. And he'd pull his guns out. He'd walk around in the backyard. He suffered from extreme post traumatic stress disorder from the things that he was called upon to do while he served. And he suffered from night horrors, nightmares, and tremors. So it took us probably about 10 years to get him to come out of the basement. And one of my aunts went and dragged him down to the VA. And when he got down
Mhm.
there, they evaluated him, got him treatment, mental health treatment. They assessed him. He ended up being 100%. And with that 100%, he got a very, very large payment from the VA. He suffered
Oh, wow.
greatly based on, what he had been exposed to and what he was called upon to do. So a lot of times, Johnny said, you come home, you just, don't want to be a part of it. I had another nephew. He came home from the service. He had a less than honorable in his
Mhm.
discharge status. So, he needed services. His rating when he came out on his DD 214 was based on the post traumatic stress that he had suffered. He was also a sniper and he was in Afghanistan. And, it conflicted with how we had raised him in the church, the things that he had to do. And he snapped like towards the end. So that impacted his final discharge status. And so he came home, ashamed. Uh, he would snap off very angrily at
Mhm.
people. And I just continued to work with him until I, got him some assistance first in getting his discharge status upgraded to under honorable conditions. And when you get to that level, then you can access services from the VA. And quite frankly, he is 100% service connected and is paid in the thousands every month.
Wow.
For what he went through. So, the VA, we also have a Veterans Justice Program. And what we do there is we help veterans who their discharge status, like I said, might be less than honorable, to get that elevated and raised so that they can access services at the VA. The other thing that the VA offers is called the Compact Act. It came out after the PACT Act, and that is a program that we provide to make sure that veterans don't take their lives and that they're not isolated and that they don't harm themselves or have suicidal thoughts or ideations. So at the Compact Act, if you, as a veteran or a veteran that appears to be suicidal, having a very difficult time, they can go to any hospital or any mental health facility and get 30 days of inpatient treatment on the VA. We will pay for 30 days of inpatient treatment if they go to the hospital of their choice. They don't have to come to the VA under the Compact Act, or they can get 90 days of outpatient treatment, because every life is valuable and we don't want to lose our veterans because of their inability to get to the VA in a timely manner when it's needed. So that's the Compact Act. That's another resource that we have at the VA to prevent suicide. We also have the Buddy Check program, and that's a program where we work with fellow veterans to make sure they're checking in on their buddies, because what we found is that through isolation, that's when those thoughts come into play. That's when the harmful thoughts come into a veteran's mind. But when they're engaged in things that have them reestablish that camaraderie that they had when they served with their fellow veterans, they get reengaged. Because a lot of times when people come home from the service, their old high school friends, they can't relate to them, because what they had to do in the military is so far removed. It's like another world, an altered universe compared to what their friends who never served have lived. So it's important for them to get reconnected with their own, with other veterans, those who understand the impact of war on their mental health and in their emotional and physical health. And through that bond, it pulls a lot of people out of dark spaces. So Johnny asked, how do you get the opportunity to apply for benefits? As I said earlier, you can call 1-800-827-1000 and start that process. Say you want to do an intent to file a claim for benefits. And that starts the clock ticking. And you know how the VA is. Once the clock starts, you've got to do your part too. You can come to a VA hospital and apply. Bring your military ID or your DD 214 or even your driver's license, because we have the ability to go into the system and determine if you had actually served or not. Of course, there are some people who try to do unscrupulous things and impersonate and steal the honor of those who were most honorable through their service. You can also work with a veteran service officer. And I say that's a good place to start too. And the National Association of Black Veterans, the Montford Point Marines, the Disabled American Veterans, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, they all have veteran service officers, and they are free to veterans. And what they do is they help you apply for benefits. If, for instance, you apply and say maybe you're denied, they can file the appeal. They can go to the adjudication hearings and represent you in a VA court. We also have a program for veterans who suffered military sexual trauma. I had the first workshop at the Philadelphia VA for MST victims, and they are both male and female. It's not just something that impacts women. We have special psychologists trained in military sexual trauma to help those veterans who were sexually abused or harassed during service, to get the support that they need for their mental health and also to access the resources. We also serve all veterans, regardless of your sexual orientation. You served, we owe you service. We have to, keep up with the commitment and honor the commitment that President Lincoln, charged to all of us, that we take care of the widows and the orphans, or the husbands and the orphans of the veterans who served.
Wow.
So what if they can't find any military records? Okay, well, the VA should have your military records. The DOD would also have your military records. You can also get a letter from someone who served with you. And the VA can work with you on that. That should never be a deterrent. You can also order your DD 214. You can go to www.va.gov and you can order the DD 214. And I strongly encourage people to get a copy of their DD 214. It's actually the DD 214 4 now. That's the latest version. That is the complete military record with nothing left out. The DD 214 4. That's the latest version. So you can order that online from the VA. It comes, within a couple weeks, and you should order multiple copies. You should put a copy with someone that you will want to be able to handle your final affairs. Put in a safe or in the bank or somewhere where someone in your family that you've charged with handling your final affairs can get that. It's what typically happens. I see a lot is that when a veteran passes, they've not prepared their family for, their ability to access the burial benefits from the VA. And what's the first step? When the body goes to the funeral home, if the funeral home gets that DD 214, then they take over that work for you. They do that heavy lift with the VA. They notify the VA that they have the veteran's body. And then they start, if you decide you're going to bury your loved one in a VA cemetery, they get you connected there. You're scheduled to come in for the service. I attended 3 of my relatives' funerals, beautiful services at VA in Colorado, and 2 right here at Washington Crossing here in Pennsylvania. We also have the Colored Soldiers Cemetery on Lime Kiln Parkway in Philadelphia. I think that's pretty full now, but Washington Crossing, beautiful facility, acres and acres of space for people to be able to bury their loved ones, also in New Jersey as well. So a VSO is a veteran service organization, as I mentioned, the American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, the National Association of Black Veterans. They have a chapter in Delaware as well as in Philadelphia. Delaware is a very strong NAVVETS. I think the president is Sergeant Major Rodney Little, very active veteran. He's also a veteran service officer who can assist you with filing a claim for benefits at the VA.
Wow. And that's so interesting.
So if you have a family member who has passed and you're going to have them buried at the VA cemetery, they will present the family with a flag there. If they served in the Army, one of my employees passed while at work. And so he had served in the Navy. So the Navy came to the service and presented his widow with the flag because they were burying his remains out of state at that time. So through the National Cemetery Administration, NCA is the acronym. They will tell you about all the benefits that you're entitled to. You can also go into the VA hospital. We have Decedent Affairs. They have books that tell you of all the available programs and services that veterans can access, as well as their loved ones and family members. So I usually, when I go out in the community to speak to veterans and veteran organizations, I take a ton of materials with me. I have things from the Cemetery Administration. I have things from the Benefits Administration. I have information from where I work at the hospital, which talks about the PACT Act and presumptive conditions. So you're always informed. But again, you can always just go to www.va.gov and just start your search. There's so much information available to you about all the offerings from the VA, and how to access them, and also listings of your local Veterans Administration medical centers, which we have all across the country. So, say you're enrolled in Philadelphia, but you're traveling to California and you need medical attention. Well, California can pull up your medical records from Philadelphia, and you can get treatment there. Or if you relocate, they can electronically, move your information to that new location that you're going to be at so that you can get established care there, and they will be able to access your records from the other veterans hospital that you were served at. So you can find a VSO, like I said, in Delaware. There is the Veterans Benefits Administration has a local office near where the hospital is. The VBA regional office is at 5000 Wissahickon Avenue in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Again, that's 5000 Wissahickon Avenue in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and that's the regional office. So they oversee benefits for southeastern Pennsylvania, Delaware, southern, and parts of northern New Jersey, because they're regional. And they also can help those that are, if you're like 6 months away from leaving the military, that's the perfect time to start, transferring and getting yourself established with the VA. You don't have to wait until after you get out. 6 months, we have teams of specialists from VBA that will come out to you if you're at the base and do a presentation and help guide you through that process to get set up in getting enrolled in VA healthcare.
Yeah, I think somebody asked a question about.
There's a question: are there guidelines for getting a flag? Do they need to have an honorable discharge? So, as I said, if you have a dishonorable discharge, we have to work with you to try to see what we can do to get that discharge status upgraded. Less than honorable, yes, you can also get the flag. Honorable, of course, but never let that be a hindrance. Don't wait to the last minute. I mean, we even have resources to help veterans that we've had some veterans who were, being evicted, and they contacted the VA, and they would have been eligible for so many more services if this female veteran had not waited until she was being evicted to reach out to the VA. We were able to connect her with some, private organizations, to help her with her rent fees. But she had been ashamed to come into the VA because she had a less than honorable discharge. And she was also a military sexual trauma victim. So if she had come in, we could have worked with her, and we have since then. But, earlier on, before she got into a crisis state, she would have been eligible for our homeless program services. She would have been able to have her discharge status worked on to get that upgraded so she could access many, many more benefits and services, including our MST program, our women's health clinic, and so much more. So, don't let the shame of something that happened during your military service that might have had you leave service under circumstances that you might be ashamed of, or that may have prevented you from getting all the services and care and getting enrolled in VA. Don't do that. Just let us help you. We've helped veterans who were in civilian court with charges against them through the Veterans Court in Philadelphia and other veterans court. There's also one in Bucks County, and I don't know about Delaware, but we've been able to have their cases moved out of the civilian court and into the veterans court. And there, when they come to the veterans court, because the judges in veterans court are also veterans, they understand that their experiences have created situations in their life where maybe they've gotten into problems because they were overreacted, or they were dealing with PTSD or mental health issues. So at the VA, we wrap services around those veterans. Say, for instance, if you're in a TRICARE and you go to University of Penn or Virtua or Christiana Care and you have a broken arm. So when you go to those private hospitals, they're going to treat you for what you present with. If you present with a broken arm, they're going to treat that broken arm. Then they're going to send you on your way. But if you come to the VA, you're enrolled in VA healthcare, you come in with the broken arm. Yes, we're going to treat that broken arm, but we're going to do a total assessment of your needs, your psychosocial, emotional, financial, all of your needs. If you need food, we're going to make sure that we provide you with food. If you need clothing, if you need help, finding a job, if you have mental health needs, we're going to make sure that you get the mental health care that you deserve. So we wrap all services around them. We take a whole health approach to the care of our veterans. If you go into the community, you're not going to get that. A lot of times, some hospitals really don't want to see veterans, especially if a veteran is homeless. He may not present as clean. He may have an odor. His clothes may be ragged. They don't really want to see you. But at the VA, we understand that something in your past while you were serving led to that circumstance where you're in the condition you are in now. So that's when I say we wrap all of our services around you to restore you so that you can have a full life, a meaningful life, be reconnected with your family. A lot of times veterans are estranged from their loved ones because, they just couldn't come back, and they felt that they were so different they couldn't live in that reality that the family was living in. So we help restore those areas too in your life through support services through our mental health division.
For the stuff.
So there's rental assistance through the community. However, if you need rental assistance, there are other things that if you're enrolled in VA healthcare that we can help you with. If you are in a situation where you really don't have a stable job or enough money to pay your rent, then we look to find you permanent housing, based on whatever, if you're getting a payment, a compensation payment from the VA, so that you can be able to live within your means comfortably without having to struggle. We also partner with Progressive Insurance. So every November, Progressive Insurance, when we submit the names of veterans that are in need of a car, Progressive Insurance gives them a car that it's a late model car. It may not be like the current thing off of the assembly line, but a couple years old. They give it to you for free, plus 1 year of insurance. And veterans that need that, through our social services and social workers, they recommend you to Progressive to get this benefit. I went to a service last year. There were 20 veterans from across the entire state of Pennsylvania, some from Delaware, that came to Progressive Insurance and got a free car. Some of them needed vans because they had children. Some just wanted a sedan. Some got trucks. Some may have needed a wheelchair lift, and Progressive provided that for the veterans and a year of insurance to help them, be able to have a full life. And you can get your discharge status upgraded through our Veterans Justice Program. That's a part of our social work program. And that is where you would want to start.
Yes.
So, we're Department of Veterans Affairs. So we help house our homeless veterans. We also have a program called our Drug and Rehabilitation Residential Treatment Program. So veterans that may come home addicted to substances, they can come to be admitted into our Snyder House, where they can, stay there. They undergo individual and group therapy. We, get them off of the substances, get them back into a healthy recovery, get them reconnected, and they live there at the VA. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have a community living center, which is our nursing home for veterans who have no one to take care of them, who are at the end stages of their life. It also includes veterans who may have had surgery and they have no one to help them, and they need some short-term, rehabilitation. We will rehabilitate them there, and then they can be discharged back to their home. So as I said, we provide so many services. Veterans come in, you get your free COVID-19 vaccine. There's a new variant around. So all of the veterans hospitals have COVID-19 vaccines, they have flu vaccines, and they have the RSV vaccine. And you can get all three at the same time. So even if you can't be afraid of needles, because if you were in the military, they lined you up in a line and just came down and just shot you guys up. You didn't even know what you were getting. So don't be afraid of getting I call it the triple respiratory defense vaccine for COVID, RSV, and the flu.
All right. We thank you so much tonight, Miss Rita.
So I think
For
that,
being on.
I'm so grateful. If you ever need any assistance or if you need someone to come out and talk to your veterans, you can call me. I'm Rita Chappelle at the VA. My cell number is 484-609-5530. Love to come out and do presentations. Love to tell veterans why it's important to get enrolled in VA healthcare and share about the PACT Act. And I bring a whole team with me, our caregiver support team, our suicide prevention team, our nutrition and food services team. They come out and teach veterans who have medical conditions like diabetes how to eat healthy and eat better, and how to cook. We have cookbooks, for different diseases to help you, have a variety of food that's healthy and good for you. So, I hope that's, I've talked quite some bit. I thank you so much, Johnnie, for having me on the show. I hope I didn't take it over from you completely. Thank you for assisting me with the questions in the chat, because I don't know what was going on with the audio. What do you expect from Apple computers, right? You can't expect perfection. I should have had a Samsung. So thank you again for having me.
We appreciate it. I want to thank our audience for listening to Creative Financing with JB this evening on veterans. We love our veterans. We thank everybody that came out. Our top realtors showed up, Gary and Isabel and Mr. Hinton. We thank y'all for showing up and communicating with us. But until next week, we will see you then. Creative Financing with JB. Thanks again. Happy Veterans Day to everybody, and we'll see you next Tuesday.